The hidden power of attention right now, in this very moment, you are looking at these words. You are giving them focus. You are observing them. That single act may feel ordinary, but within it lies one of the greatest secrets of reality. Your focus is not passive. It is not neutral. It is not simply the act of noticing. It is the force that collapses possibilities into form, the invisible hand that takes the infinite potential of the universe and makes it solid in your experience. This is what science calls the observer effect, and it changes everything about the way you see your life. For centuries, people believed that reality existed independently of perception. Rocks were rocks, stars were stars, and events unfolded with mechanical precision whether or not anyone was there to notice. But the rise of quantum physics shattered that certainty. Experiments revealed that reality behaves differently depending on whether it is observed. Tiny particles exist as waves of probability until someone looks, and then they collapse into a single state. In other words, the universe waits for attention before deciding what to become. This idea is not just theoretical. It has been tested again and again, most famously in the double-slit experiment. When particles pass through two slits without being observed, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern as though they exist in multiple states at once. But when a measuring device observes which slit they pass through, they stop acting like waves and behave like particles, choosing one path. Observation changes the outcome. Attention shapes reality. Think about the implications of that. At the most fundamental level of existence, the universe is not fixed until it is observed. Possibilities remain open until focus collapses them into a single experience. If that is true at the quantum level, then it is also true in your life. Your focus determines which version of reality you live. Your attention is not a spotlight shining on an already finished stage. It is the script, the director, and the spotlight combined. It is the mechanism by which you co-create your world. This is why the observer effect is not just a scientific curiosity, but a spiritual truth. It reveals what sages and mystics have always known, that consciousness is not a bystander, but the driving force behind creation. The way you look at life literally shapes life. The beliefs you hold, the emotions you embody, the thoughts you return to again and again, all of these are forms of observation. They are the ways you collapse possibility into reality. And most people are doing it unconsciously, creating limitation because they observe limitation, creating fear because they observe fear. You are not one of those people. You are here now because you are ready to wake up to the power of your focus. You are ready to see that your attention is not random, that your perception is not passive, that your gaze is a creative force. This realization transforms everything. Suddenly, you are no longer a victim of circumstances tossed about by random events. You are the director of your experience, shaping it moment by moment through the act of observation. Notice how this plays out in your daily life. When you focus on problems, more problems seem to appear. When you focus on gratitude, more reasons to be grateful arise. When you look for synchronicities, they multiply. This is not because reality changes randomly, but because your attention tunes you to a frequency. Just like a radio dial, your focus determines which station you hear. The music was always there, but your observation decides which track plays in your reality. This is why the observer effect changes everything. It shows you that nothing is neutral. Everything you pay attention to is amplified. Every thought you feed becomes stronger. Every belief you hold becomes more real. Your attention is the fuel that brings potential into form. This is not philosophy, it is physics. And it is happening every moment of your life, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are you observing unconsciously or consciously? Are you letting old patterns, fears, and doubts dictate your focus, or are you choosing where to place your attention? Most people live in unconscious observation. They focus on lack, on struggle, on fear, and then wonder why their lives reflect lack, struggle, and fear. They do not realize they are collapsing those versions of reality into being by looking at them. They are creators without awareness. But when you awaken to this truth, you step into conscious observation. You begin to choose your focus intentionally, and by doing so, you choose your reality. This is the power that has been hidden in plain sight. Every time you shift your attention, you shift your world. Every time you direct your focus, you direct your future. Every time you decide to observe possibility instead of limitation, the field reorganizes itself around that choice. You are not waiting for reality to change before you feel different. You feel different, and reality changes. You are not waiting for proof before you believe. You believe, and proof appears. This is the secret woven into the fabric of existence. The observer effect is not just about subatomic particles in a lab. It is about you right now, in your life. The reason you found this video is because your attention was ready to shift. Somewhere inside you, the question was asked, how much power does my focus hold? And in response, this message appeared. That is synchronicity. That is resonance. That is the universe showing you that you are ready to step into conscious observation. You did not stumble here randomly. You collapsed this possibility into your timeline by noticing it. As you continue listening, allow this realization to deepen. Your attention is the most valuable resource you possess. It is not just where you look, it is what you create. When you truly understand this, you stop wasting it on distractions that drain you. You stop giving it to fear that limits you. You stop scattering it on noise that pulls you away from alignment. Instead, you begin to treat your attention as sacred. You choose carefully where you place it, knowing that what you observe is what you become. This is the hidden power of the observer effect. It shows you that focus is not simply noticing, focus is creation. The universe responds to your gaze, shaping itself around your attention. You are not passive. You are not separate. You are not powerless. You are the observer, and that makes you the creator. This truth changes everything. Why unconscious focus keeps you stuck. Most people move through life unaware of how much power their focus holds. They assume they are simply watching reality unfold, when in truth they are helping to create it through the act of observation. What they call noticing is actually choosing. What they believe is neutral attention is actually collapsing possibilities into form. And because this process runs automatically, most people spend their entire lives unconsciously observing limitation into existence. Think of someone who constantly focuses on struggle. They see obstacles everywhere. They tell stories about how nothing works out for them. They rehearse these thoughts so often that they become beliefs, and those beliefs shape their emotions. Day after day, they are broadcasting the frequency of limitation. The universe responds faithfully, mirroring back more struggle, more obstacles, more reasons to believe their story. They do not realize that their observation is what keeps collapsing those realities into place. To them, it feels like bad luck. To the universe, it is simply resonance. This is how unconscious observation traps people. They do not understand that the mind is like a projector, and what they constantly observe internally becomes the movie they live externally. Their focus on lack produces more lack. Their attention to fear produces more fear. Their observation of limitation collapses limitation into their timeline. The cycle feeds itself because they do not know that their gaze is creative. They believe they are powerless, yet it is their very belief in powerlessness that shapes their world. But once you realize the truth of the observer effect, everything shifts. You begin to see that you are not doomed to repeat old patterns forever. You can redirect your attention. You can collapse new possibilities into form. You can break the cycle of unconscious creation and step into conscious observation. This is not about pretending problems do not exist. It is about refusing to feed them with endless focus. It is about choosing to direct your gaze toward alignment, coherence, and possibility, knowing that the universe will mirror that choice. Conscious observation begins with awareness. You start noticing what you are noticing. You ask yourself, where is my focus right now? Am I giving my attention to fear or to trust? Am I feeding doubt or cultivating faith? Am I observing the version of reality I want to live, or am I collapsing the version I fear? These questions wake you up from autopilot. They reveal how much of your attention has been wasted on unconscious loops. And in that awareness, the power to redirect emerges. The shift is subtle but profound. Instead of unconsciously repeating old focus patterns, you become intentional. You decide what deserves your gaze and what does not. You recognize that every moment of attention is an act of creation, so you begin to treat your focus as sacred. You practice choosing thoughts that align with the reality you desire, not the one you fear. You practice feeling the emotions of the self you are becoming, not the self you are leaving behind. You practice observing coherence, gratitude, and expansion until those observations become your default state. As you do this, something extraordinary happens. The universe begins to reorganize around your new focus. Opportunities that once seemed invisible suddenly appear. People who match your new frequency enter your life. Patterns of synchronicity multiply, confirming that your conscious observation is working. What was once hidden becomes visible, not because the world changed randomly, but because your focus tuned you to a different layer of reality. The observer effect is not abstract here, it is alive in your daily experience. Science reflects this truth. Neuroscience shows that the brain filters billions of pieces of information every second, but you only notice what matches your focus. This is called selective attention. If you are focused on problems, your brain highlights evidence of problems and ignores everything else. If you shift your focus to solutions, suddenly you notice opportunities you overlooked before. The external world did not change. Your observation did. And because your observation collapsed new possibilities, your experience of reality transformed. Conscious creation is not instant magic. It is training. You are retraining your attention, rewiring your identity, and reconditioning your nervous system. At first, it feels awkward. The old focus patterns are strong. Fear pulls you back. Doubt tempts you to collapse the old timeline again. But if you stay consistent, if you keep choosing where to place your gaze, the new patterns stabilize. Eventually, conscious observation becomes natural and unconscious limitation fades. This is where synchronicity becomes a powerful ally. As you shift your observation, the universe sends signals to confirm the change. A number sequence appears right after you make a new choice. A message aligns with the thought you were focusing on. An opportunity arrives just as you embody a new frequency. These synchronicities are not random, they are the feedback system of the field. They are the universe showing you that your conscious observation is working, that the new reality is collapsing into form. Unconscious observation keeps people trapped because they ignore these signals. They explain them away as coincidence or dismiss them as meaningless. Conscious creators, however, recognize them as guidance. They use them as confirmation, as encouragement, as proof that focus is power. They learn to trust the signs as a compass, steering them deeper into alignment. The more they trust, the more fluent they become in the language of synchronicity. The transition from unconscious to conscious observation is the essence of awakening. You begin to see that life is not happening to you but through you. You realize that your gaze is not passive but active. You understand that every time you look at reality, you are shaping it. This realization brings both responsibility and freedom. Responsibility, because you can no longer pretend you are powerless. Freedom, because you know you can choose differently at any moment. This is why the observer effect is revolutionary. It exposes the hidden mechanism behind creation. It shows you that your focus is the most powerful tool you possess. It reveals that you are not a victim of randomness, but the director of possibilities. And once you embrace this, you can never go back to sleepwalking through life. You see too clearly how every thought, every belief, every moment of attention is sculpting the reality you live. You are here now because you are ready to step out of unconscious observation. You are ready to stop collapsing limitation and start collapsing possibility. You are ready to use your focus intentionally, to direct your gaze toward the timeline you desire, to become a conscious creator of your life. This message did not find you by chance. It found you because your readiness called it in. You observed it into existence by your resonance. And now that you see it, you cannot unsee it. The choice is yours. Will you continue to observe unconsciously, or will you choose to create consciously? Unlocking coherence between mind and heart. When people first hear about the observer effect, they often assume that thoughts alone are enough to reshape reality. They try to think positively, to imagine better outcomes, to repeat affirmations in the hope that the universe will respond. But they quickly notice a problem. Their thoughts say one thing while their emotions say another. They think abundance, but they feel lack. They imagine confidence, but they feel fear. The result is scattered observation, mixed signals sent into the field. The universe does not mirror the words they speak, but the vibration they embody. This is why coherence is everything. Coherence means alignment between thought and emotion, between what you imagine in your mind and what you feel in your body. When these two are in harmony, your observation gains strength. The signal you send into the field becomes clear, consistent, and powerful. When they are in conflict, your signal is weak. You may think you are broadcasting one reality, but your emotions collapse another. The universe mirrors confusion back to you because you are broadcasting confusion. Science supports this truth. The heart produces the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, even stronger than the brain. When your thoughts are out of sync with your emotions, the signals are incoherent, jagged, and unstable. But when you feel gratitude, love, or calm while thinking thoughts that match those emotions, the signals become coherent. Coherence means the heart and mind are in rhythm, sending a unified broadcast into the field. Studies show that this state of coherence improves not only emotional well-being, but also physical health and mental clarity. In spiritual terms, it is the state that allows the universe to respond with synchronicity. Consider how this plays out in your life. You can tell yourself all day that you believe in abundance, but if your body is tense with fear of not having enough, your observation collapses scarcity. You can repeat affirmations of love, but if your heart is full of resentment, your observation collapses distance and conflict. The universe responds to what you truly embody, not what you pretend. This is why coherence matters so deeply. It is not about words or surface thoughts, but about alignment between the story in your mind and the frequency in your heart. When coherence is present, synchronicities multiply. The signs become sharper, the timing more precise, the alignments more undeniable. This is because your signal is finally clear. The field does not have to sort through mixed messages. It receives a steady broadcast, and it mirrors that back with precision. You begin to feel like reality itself is conspiring in your favor, not because you are lucky, but because you are coherent. Practices that cultivate coherence are simple yet profound. Gratitude is one of the most powerful. When you genuinely feel grateful while holding thoughts of what you desire, your heart and mind synchronize. The field receives a broadcast of appreciation and possibility, and it reflects experiences that match. Visualization also becomes more effective when paired with emotion. It is not enough to imagine the scene, you must feel the feelings of already living it. When thought and emotion merge, your observation collapses that reality more powerfully than either alone. This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize the union of heart and mind. Mystics speak of prayer not as begging for outcomes, but as aligning with the feeling of already being heard. Quantum scientists describe coherence as the state where the observer effect is most potent. Different languages, same truth. Coherence is the gateway. Without it, observation is scattered. With it, observation becomes creation. Think of it like a laser. Ordinary light scatters in many directions, illuminating but weak. Laser light, however, is coherent, every wave aligned, every photon in sync. That coherence allows a laser to cut through steel. In the same way, when your thoughts and emotions scatter, your observation is weak. But when they align, your focus becomes laser-like, capable of collapsing powerful realities into being. You may have noticed moments in your life when coherence happened naturally. You felt a surge of inspiration. Your thoughts lit up with possibility. Your emotions vibrated with excitement. In that state, doors opened effortlessly. People showed up at the perfect time. Synchronicities multiplied. That was coherence at work. You were not fighting yourself, not broadcasting mixed signals. You were unified, and the universe mirrored that unity with precision. This is why inner work is so important. You cannot bypass your emotions with surface thoughts. You must bring them into alignment. If fear arises, you must face it, not cover it with forced positivity. If doubt lingers, you must release it, not hide it beneath rehearsed words. Coherence does not mean pretending. It means aligning authentically, choosing thoughts that resonate with genuine emotion, cultivating feelings that match your desired reality. As you strengthen coherence, you begin to notice that reality responds faster. The delay between intention and manifestation shortens. Synchronicities appear quickly after you shift your state. Opportunities align with ease. This acceleration is not magic but physics. A coherent signal is more powerful, so the field responds more immediately. You are not waiting for reality to change, you are changing your broadcast, and reality is keeping pace. Coherence also brings peace. When your thoughts and emotions are in conflict, you feel restless, scattered, and drained. But when they align, you feel calm, steady, and empowered. This calm is not passive. It is alive, vibrant, full of creative potential. It is the calm of clarity, the peace of knowing you are aligned with the flow of the universe. From this state, your actions become more effective because they are supported by resonance rather than resistance. The observer effect reveals that your focus shapes reality, but coherence shows you how to focus effectively. It is not enough to think. You must feel. It is not enough to imagine. You must embody. When thought and emotion unite, the act of observation becomes infinitely more powerful. You are no longer collapsing random possibilities. You are collapsing the reality that matches your deepest alignment. If you are hearing this message now, it is because the universe is calling you into coherence. You are ready to stop scattering your energy and start unifying it. You are ready to stop pretending with surface thoughts and start embodying with authentic feelings. You are ready to become a coherent observer and, in doing so, a powerful creator. This is not theory. It is your lived experience waiting to unfold. So take this to heart. Every time you align your thoughts and emotions, you are sharpening your focus. Every time you cultivate coherence, you are tuning yourself to the frequency of the reality you desire. Every time you embody what you wish to create, the universe responds with synchronicity. This is the secret behind the observer effect. This is the reason coherence changes everything. Breaking free from old patterns that trap you. If coherence is the key to shaping reality with precision, then unconscious patterns are the shadows that blur the signal. They are the hidden programs running in the background, pulling your focus into the same old stories, collapsing the same timelines again and again. Most people live their entire lives inside these loops, never realizing they are not observing reality but rehearsing the past. Until those patterns are exposed and rewired, observation remains scattered and coherence is impossible. The human brain is designed to conserve energy. Once it learns a belief, it builds a neural pathway that makes that belief automatic. If you were taught as a child that money is scarce, your brain created a shortcut that interprets every financial experience through the lens of lack. If you grew up believing you were not worthy of love, your brain created a filter that turns every relationship into evidence of that unworthiness. These pathways become unconscious observation loops. They decide where your attention goes before you even realize it. This is why the same problems repeat in people's lives. They think they are unlucky or cursed, but in truth, they are simply observing through the same patterns. Their focus collapses limitation because the unconscious is directing the gaze. The observer effect is still at work, but it is being hijacked by outdated beliefs. Every thought, every emotion, every observation becomes proof of the old identity. The universe reflects faithfully, not because reality is cruel, but because it is precise. It mirrors the signal it receives, even if that signal comes from unconscious loops. Awakening begins the moment you notice these patterns. You start to catch yourself rehearsing the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, telling the same stories. You realize that what you have called reality is often just repetition. This recognition is not comfortable. It can be painful to see how much of your life has been shaped by unconscious observation. But it is also liberating because once you see the loop, you can step out of it. Awareness breaks the spell. Breaking free requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands that you interrupt the pattern in real time. When the old thought arises, you choose not to follow it. When the familiar emotion swells, you breathe into it rather than feed it. When the same story wants to play again, you stop mid-sentence and redirect. These small acts of interruption weaken the neural pathway. Each time you refuse to collapse the old reality, you reclaim power over your observation. At first, this feels unnatural. The pull of the old identity is strong. Your nervous system is addicted to familiar emotions, even if they are painful. Anger, worry, self-doubt, these states feel normal because the body has rehearsed them for years. Breaking free can trigger resistance. But if you persist, the grip loosens. New neural pathways form. The body begins to feel safe in new states. Coherence becomes possible again. Synchronicity helps in this process. When you resist the old loop and choose a new focus, the universe often rewards you with a signal. A number sequence flashes. A meaningful phrase appears. An opportunity aligns. These are confirmations that the loop is breaking, that the new identity is gaining strength. If you pay attention, you will notice that the more you step out of unconscious observation, the more synchronicities flood your life. The field responds instantly to your shift. Breaking unconscious loops is also about forgiveness. Many of those patterns were not chosen consciously. They were inherited from family, culture, or society. They were survival strategies learned early in life. Blaming yourself for carrying them only feeds the loop. Forgiveness, on the other hand, releases the energy. It allows you to see the pattern without judgment and choose differently. Forgiveness is not about excusing the past. It is about freeing your focus from it. Another powerful tool is presence. Unconscious observation thrives on autopilot, on letting the mind wander into the familiar, but presence interrupts it. When you are fully here, watching your thoughts instead of being lost in them, the loop weakens. Observation shifts from unconscious to conscious. The present moment becomes the platform where you choose what to collapse. You are no longer dragged by the old signal. You are the one directing the broadcast. As you continue to break these loops, you begin to see reality differently. You notice how much of your world was shaped not by truth, but by old filters. You realize that many of the limitations you believed in were never real, they were simply rehearsed into existence. This realization brings tremendous freedom. The walls you thought surrounded you dissolve when you stop observing them. The prison was always made of perception, and the door was always unlocked. This is why inner transformation is not about changing the external first, it is about changing the observer. When you shift your focus from unconscious loops to conscious creation, reality cannot help but reorganize. The observer effect makes it law. As within, so without. The more consistently you interrupt the old observation, the more steadily the new reality emerges. What once felt like a miracle becomes predictable. The universe reflects your coherence with precision. If you are here listening to this, it is because you are ready to break your own loops. You are ready to stop collapsing limitation and start collapsing expansion. You are ready to notice when old patterns try to hijack your focus and choose differently. The universe placed this message before you as confirmation that you are capable of stepping out of unconscious observation. You are not trapped. You are not powerless. You are the observer, and the observer always holds the key. As you embody this truth, remember that every signal you see is a mirror. If synchronicities flood your path, it is proof that you are aligned. If chaos mirrors back, it is proof that an old loop is still active. Either way, the universe is showing you your state with clarity. The signs are not random, they are feedback. Use them to refine your observation, to strengthen coherence, to break the loops that no longer serve you. This is the path of mastery. Not to live without patterns, but to choose them consciously. Not to deny the past, but to stop rehearsing it. Not to chase signs desperately, but to notice them as reflections of your state. The observer effect guarantees that your focus shapes reality. Breaking the loops ensures that your focus becomes free, intentional, and powerful. And when it does, the life you collapse into form will be nothing like the life you leave behind. How your focus shapes collective reality. When most people think about the observer effect, they imagine it only in terms of their own lives. My focus shapes my reality. My thoughts and emotions influence my timeline. My coherence collapses new possibilities into form. All of this is true, but it is not the whole picture. Consciousness is not isolated. Each of us is both an individual observer and part of a collective field. Every observation contributes not only to personal experience, but to the shared reality we call the world. Imagine throwing a stone into a still lake. The ripples spread outward, touching every corner of the water. In the same way, every thought, every focus, every observation sends ripples into the collective field. Your personal signal does not vanish into nothingness. It merges with the signals of billions of other observers, shaping the probabilities that collapse into shared events. This is why shifts in individual consciousness, when multiplied, create movements, revolutions, and cultural transformations. The observer effect is not just personal, it is planetary. You can see this in small examples. When a crowd focuses on one idea, energy amplifies. At a concert, the collective observation of joy creates a field that lifts everyone higher. At a protest, the collective observation of injustice creates a field that demands change. In meditation groups, studies show that when enough people focus on peace, crime rates drop temporarily in the surrounding area. These are not coincidences. They are the collective observer effect in action. Shared focus collapses probabilities in a unified direction. This is also why media is so powerful. What billions of people watch, talk about, and give their attention to becomes magnified in the collective field. The stories repeated in the news, the narratives replayed on screens, the symbols that capture mass attention, these are all forms of collective observation. And because observation shapes reality, They influence the probabilities that collapse into global experiences. This is why becoming intentional about where you place your attention matters not only for your life but for the world. When you choose coherence, you are not only transforming your own reality, you are feeding coherence into the collective field. When you observe abundance instead of lack, peace instead of fear, possibility instead of limitation, you add those frequencies to the shared pool. Even if you never speak a word about it, your observation ripples outward. You become part of a subtle revolution, shifting the collective not by force, but by resonance. This is why awakening is never just personal. When you break unconscious loops and step into conscious observation, you help others do the same. Your presence becomes synchronistic. People around you feel your coherence and begin to align. You become a mirror of what is possible. You may notice that as you shift, conversations with friends or family change. They begin asking questions they never asked before. They begin noticing signs they never noticed before. Your focus influences theirs, even if silently. At the collective level, this is how humanity evolves. Not through sudden external miracles, but through shifts in observation multiplied across millions of individuals. Every breakthrough in history began when enough people chose to see differently. The observer effect is not just a metaphor here, it is the underlying mechanism. Reality reorganizes itself when collective focus reaches a tipping point. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable because observation collapsed it into form. This is why the universe placed this message in front of you now. You are not only shaping your life, you are contributing to the shaping of our shared timeline. Your coherence matters. Your focus matters. Every time you observe consciously, you send a ripple into the collective. And though you may not see the full scope of its impact, the field receives it. The universe remembers every signal. Nothing is wasted. It is easy to underestimate this influence. You might think, how can my focus affect the entire world? But consider that even the smallest ripple can shift the whole pattern of a lake. Your signal may seem small, but in resonance, small shifts amplify. A tuning fork vibrating at the right frequency can make an entire piano string resonate. One candle can light 1,000 others without losing its flame. In the same way, one coherent observer can influence countless lives. The field amplifies alignment because it recognizes truth. This understanding also explains why chaos often precedes collective transformation. When old systems collapse, collective observation becomes scattered. Fear rises, uncertainty spreads, and the shared field destabilizes. But within that chaos, individuals who choose coherence send stabilizing ripples. They become anchors in the storm, signals of alignment that help guide the collective through turbulence. Their focus does not erase the storm, but it creates pockets of order, clarity, and inspiration. Eventually, enough anchors shift the tide. You may not see yourself as part of this larger process, but you are. Every time you choose to notice synchronicities, you remind the collective that life is meaningful. Every time you hold gratitude, you feed that frequency into the field. Every time you redirect your observation from fear to trust, you create ripples of coherence. The universe chose you to see this because you are capable of carrying that responsibility. You are ready to be a conscious contributor to the collective observer effect. This is why your awakening matters more than you realize. It is not selfish to focus on your own coherence. It is service. By collapsing realities of alignment in your personal life, you help collapse realities of alignment in the shared field. You become part of a rising wave that lifts humanity. Your focus helps write the script of our collective story. Think of how different the world would look if enough people practiced conscious observation. If billions of minds and hearts aligned in coherence, the probabilities available to humanity would shift dramatically. War, scarcity, and division would lose power because the collective would stop observing them into being. Peace, abundance, and unity would gain momentum because they would become the dominant broadcast. The observer effect makes this not only possible but inevitable once enough individuals awaken. You are one of those individuals. You are not here by accident. You are not hearing this message randomly. You are part of the ripple, part of the wave, part of the collective shift. The universe placed this moment in your timeline to remind you that your focus matters beyond your own life. You are helping to shape the shared reality of humanity. And the more you embody coherence, the more powerful your contribution becomes. The observer effect changes everything, not just because it transforms your personal world, but because it transforms the collective world. Each time you choose consciously, you help collapse a timeline that serves more than just yourself. You help collapse realities of love, clarity, and possibility for everyone. This is why synchronicity appears not only to guide you personally, but to remind you that you are part of something larger. You are not only observing for you, you are observing for us. So when you notice the signs, when you feel the resonance, when you experience synchronicity, understand that it is not just feedback for your own journey. It is confirmation that you are contributing to the collective journey. The ripple is real. The impact is real. And the universe chose you to remember this truth now because you are ready to live it. Training the observer. Practices that work. It is one thing to understand the observer effect intellectually, but another to embody it. You can hear the words, nod at the ideas, even feel inspired, but unless you train your attention, the old unconscious patterns will keep reclaiming your focus. Observation is a skill, and like any skill, it strengthens with practice. The difference between unconscious creation and conscious creation lies in how well you learn to discipline your gaze. The first step is awareness. Most people go through their days barely noticing what they are noticing. Their minds wander into loops, their emotions drag them into rehearsed states, and their focus collapses realities without them realizing it. Training begins when you start observing your observation. You step back and notice where your attention goes. You catch yourself staring at problems, feeding doubts, replaying old stories. Awareness turns unconscious loops into conscious choices. The moment you notice, you have already begun to shift. Presence is the foundation of this training. When you are present, you reclaim the power of choice. Instead of drifting into the past or projecting into the future, you anchor in the now. This matters because reality is only ever collapsed in the present. The observer effect does not operate on memories or projections. It operates on the moment you are observing. If you are not present, your focus is scattered, shaped by unconscious programs. But when you are present, you can direct it intentionally. Meditation is one of the simplest and most effective ways to cultivate presence. It is not about stopping thoughts, but about noticing them without being carried away. Each time you notice your mind drifting and gently return to focus, you are training the muscle of observation. Over time, this practice rewires your brain. It gives you space between stimulus and response. It allows you to choose your focus instead of being hijacked by old patterns. That space is where conscious creation begins. Gratitude is another powerful practice for training observation. Gratitude is more than a nice feeling, it is a shift in focus. When you practice gratitude, you are deliberately observing what is working, what is abundant, what is aligned. This changes your vibration instantly, pulling your thoughts and emotions into coherence. The field responds to that coherence with synchronicities. The more you train your focus on gratitude, the more evidence of gratitude appears. This feedback loop strengthens the skill of conscious observation. Visualization sharpens the process further. When you imagine a scene in vivid detail and pair it with genuine emotion, you are practicing coherent observation. You are teaching your mind and body to experience a new reality before it arrives. The universe responds to that signal as though it were real, because in terms of vibration, it is. Visualization is not about fantasy. It is about rehearsing the alignment you wish to live. Each session strengthens your ability to focus on the desired timeline until it becomes natural. Attention discipline also shows up in small, ordinary moments. Every time you redirect your gaze from what drains you to what inspires you, you are training. Every time you pause before reacting to an old trigger and choose a new response, you are training. Every time you notice a synchronicity and allow gratitude to rise, you are training. These small shifts accumulate. Over time, they reshape the entire landscape of your mind and body. Synchronicities themselves become part of the training. At first, they feel surprising, like rare sparks of magic. But the more you notice them, the more they multiply. This is because awareness amplifies the dialogue. The field is always speaking, but your recognition strengthens the signal. Each time you acknowledge a sign, you deepen your fluency in the language of the universe. Eventually, synchronicity stops feeling rare and begins to feel constant. You live inside the dialogue, guided moment by moment. Of course, discipline does not mean perfection. You will slip. Old patterns will arise. Doubt will creep back. The key is not to judge yourself, but to return to presence. Every moment is a chance to observe differently. Every breath is a chance to collapse a new reality. You cannot fail because the field always responds. If you fall back into unconscious observation, the signals will remind you. If you return to conscious observation, the synchronicities will reward you. The universe is patient. It will always meet you where your focus is. Training the observer within also requires patience with timing. The mind craves instant results, but coherence builds over time. Just as a musician practices scales before mastering symphonies, you must practice focus before mastering creation. Each day of awareness, each moment of presence, each act of gratitude strengthens your signal. Over weeks and months, the change becomes undeniable. Your reality reorganizes because your observation has stabilized. One of the most powerful realizations you will have in this process is that reality does not resist you, it mirrors you. If the signals are faint, it is because your focus is scattered. If the signals are strong, it is because your focus is coherent. There is no judgment in this, only feedback. Training is simply learning to read the feedback and adjust your gaze. It is not about forcing the universe to bend to your will, but about learning to align with the flow that is already guiding you. As you continue, you will notice that life feels less random and more orchestrated. Encounters feel purposeful. Timing feels precise. Opportunities arrive when you are ready, not when you demand them. This is the natural result of training the observer within. You become a skilled participant in the dialogue of reality. You stop asking whether you are aligned, you feel it. You stop doubting whether synchronicity is real, you live it. The observer effect is not a trick of science or a philosophical metaphor. It is the truth of how consciousness interacts with the field. Training yourself to observe consciously is training yourself to create consciously. It is the most valuable skill you can develop because it transforms not only your inner state but your outer world. It rewires your brain, reshapes your emotions, and reorganizes your timeline. It makes you a conscious co-creator of your life. You did not find this message by accident. The universe placed it here because you are ready to train your observation. You are ready to stop scattering your focus and start directing it with intention. You are ready to step into coherence, to notice the signs, to embody the dialogue with reality. Every moment from here is an opportunity to practice. Every observation is an act of creation. And as you strengthen this skill, you will see with undeniable clarity that the observer effect truly changes everything. Why divine timing is never wrong. One of the hardest truths for the mind to accept is that the universe does not move on human schedules. We are conditioned to believe that faster is always better, that success must arrive quickly, that answers must be immediate. But the field does not operate on urgency. It operates on alignment. The observer effect teaches that focus collapses reality, but it also reveals that collapse happens when the timing is coherent. You may observe with clarity, you may broadcast with coherence, but the manifestation will arrive only when the moment is right. This is divine timing. Divine timing is not about delay for the sake of delay. It is not the universe withholding what you desire to test your patience. It is the precise orchestration of countless probabilities aligning into form. Imagine reality as a symphony. Each instrument must enter at the right moment for the music to be beautiful. If the violin comes too early or the drums too late, the harmony collapses. In the same way, manifestations arrive when all the elements are in sync. Your focus is one element, but so are the alignments of others, the movement of circumstances, and the evolution of your own identity. The frustration many people feel arises from confusing waiting with alignment. They think nothing is happening because they cannot see it. But the universe is always arranging behind the scenes. Synchronicities are proof of this. Each sign you notice is like a note in the symphony, reassuring you that the music is still being played even if the full piece has not yet reached its crescendo. The delay is not absence. It is preparation. It is timing unfolding with precision you cannot yet see. Consider how many times in your life something arrived later than you wanted, but exactly when you needed. A relationship that felt delayed turned out to be perfectly timed for your growth. An opportunity that seemed late arrived when you had the skills to handle it. A signal that felt absent appeared the moment you were finally ready to act. In hindsight, the timing was flawless. The observer effect teaches that your focus collapses reality, but it does not collapse it prematurely. It collapses it when coherence is complete. Synchronicities often intensify when divine timing is near. You begin to see repeating numbers everywhere. Symbols cluster around you. Conversations echo your thoughts. This is the universe showing you that alignment is close. The signs multiply to keep you steady, reminding you that though you may not see the full manifestation, you are on track. The language of synchronicity becomes the reassurance that patience is not wasted, that the delay is meaningful. Divine timing also protects you. Sometimes what you desire is not yet safe for you to receive. If it arrived too soon, it could overwhelm you or collapse under the weight of your unreadiness. The universe waits until your identity is stable enough, until your coherence is strong enough, until your nervous system is ready to hold the new reality. What feels like delay is often protection. The timing ensures that when the manifestation arrives, it stays. This is why surrender is essential. The mind wants control. It wants to dictate when, how, and where. But the observer effect reveals that observation shapes reality only when aligned with a larger field. If you try to force the collapse prematurely, the signal becomes scattered. Coherence fades. You push against the very flow that is guiding you. Surrender does not mean passivity, it means trusting the timing. You still focus, you still act, but you release the demand for immediacy. You allow the universe to arrange the details with its greater intelligence. In this state, patience transforms. It is no longer heavy with frustration but alive with trust. You begin to enjoy the process, noticing the signs along the way, recognizing that each synchronicity is part of the unfolding. You stop asking when will it happen and start asking how is it already aligning. This shift keeps you coherent. It keeps your observation steady. And in that steadiness, the timing becomes flawless. Divine timing is also a teacher. It shows you where your attachments are. If you feel restless or desperate, it reveals that you are observing from lack. If you feel calm and trusting, it reveals that you are observing from abundance. The signals you receive along the way mirror your state, teaching you where you are aligned and where you still need to release. In this way, timing is not just about the manifestation, it is about your growth. It shapes you as much as it shapes the outcome. The beauty of divine timing is that when the moment finally arrives, it feels inevitable. The synchronicities converge, the opportunities align, the doors open effortlessly. What once felt like waiting dissolves into gratitude because you see how perfect the orchestration was. You realize that the universe was not ignoring you but preparing you. Every delay had purpose. Every pause had meaning. Every signal was guiding you to this precise moment. If you are hearing this now, it may be because you are in a season of waiting. You may be observing with focus, practicing coherence, and wondering why the manifestation has not yet collapsed. This message is your synchronicity. It is the universe reminding you that the timing is unfolding, that the symphony is still being played, that your role is to trust and remain aligned. You are not being denied. You are being prepared. The moment will arrive, and when it does, it will feel perfect. The observer effect shows you that your focus matters. Divine timing shows you that patience matters. Together, they create mastery. Focus without patience creates frustration. Patience without focus creates stagnation. But focus with patience creates miracles. You become an observer who not only collapses realities, but does so with trust in the timing of the universe. And in that trust, you find peace, clarity, and the joy of knowing that nothing is ever late. So let this sink in. Every synchronicity you notice is a signpost on the path. Every delay is preparation. Every moment of trust is alignment. The timing is flawless even when it feels uncertain. You are not waiting for reality to arrive, you are aligning with its perfect rhythm. The universe knows when the song should crescendo. Your role is to keep listening, keep observing, and keep trusting the music. When you do, you discover that divine timing is not just accurate, it is beautiful. Living as a conscious creator every day. By now, you can feel the truth deep inside you. The observer effect is not just a scientific curiosity. It is the secret thread running through every moment of your life. It explains why signs appear when you are ready, why synchronicities flood your path when you are aligned, why chaos rises before breakthroughs, and why patience reveals timing you could never plan on your own. Once you see this truth, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand that your observation is creation, the illusion of randomness dissolves forever. Living as a conscious observer means no longer treating your focus as casual. You understand that every glance, every thought, every feeling is shaping reality. You stop giving your attention away cheaply. You stop feeding distractions that weaken your signal. You stop collapsing timelines that do not serve you. Instead, you begin to carry your awareness with reverence. Every observation becomes intentional. Every act of focus becomes sacred. You know you are writing the script of your life with your gaze, and you choose your words carefully. This does not mean you live without challenges. Life will still bring contrast. Old patterns will still try to pull you back. Doubts may whisper, fears may rise, chaos may swirl. But the difference is that you no longer confuse these moments for punishment or bad luck. You see them for what they are: feedback. Every challenge is a mirror showing you where unconscious loops still linger. Every obstacle is an invitation to observe differently. Every delay is part of divine timing. You are not powerless in the storm. You are the observer who chooses where to look, and by choosing, you change the storm itself. When you live this way, synchronicities stop being rare and start being constant. You walk through your day and numbers appear in perfect patterns. Conversations echo your thoughts. Opportunities line up with impossible precision. At first, it feels magical. Eventually, it feels natural. You realize this is how reality was always designed to work. The universe was never random. It was always responsive. It was always speaking to you in the language of alignment. You simply had to become fluent enough to hear it. Embodying synchronicity means you stop chasing signs desperately. You no longer grasp at numbers or symbols as proof. Instead, you recognize them as reflections of your state. They are confirmations, not crutches. You live in such coherence that the signs are constant, but your faith no longer depends on them. You trust the dialogue itself. You know the universe is always speaking, always guiding, always aligning. This trust gives you peace that no external circumstance can shake. As you grow into this way of being, you also notice how much your presence influences others. Friends and family may not understand the science of the observer effect, but they feel your coherence. They feel calmer around you. They feel more hopeful. They begin to notice their own synchronicities after spending time with you. Without preaching or pushing, you become a mirror of what is possible. Your observation radiates into the collective, shifting reality not only for yourself but for those around you. This is why living as a conscious observer is an act of service. You are not only collapsing possibilities for your own life, you are contributing to the shared field. Every moment you choose coherence, you strengthen the signal of humanity. Every synchronicity you notice ripples into the collective. Every act of gratitude, every shift of focus, every moment of presence becomes part of a larger awakening. You are not just creating your reality, you are co-creating our reality. There will be moments when the old illusion tempts you back. You may catch yourself thinking life is random again. You may doubt the signs. You may wonder if synchronicity is coincidence. This is natural. The old identity will try to survive. But once you have lived as a conscious observer, those doubts cannot hold for long. The signs will appear again. The synchronicities will flood back. The universe will remind you that randomness is only a mask. Beneath it, the dialogue never stops. The language of the field is always alive. Living this way requires courage. It is easier to believe you are powerless, to blame fate, to accept randomness. It takes strength to own the responsibility of observation. It takes faith to trust divine timing when your mind screams for control. It takes persistence to choose coherence when fear pulls you back. But the rewards are beyond measure: peace, clarity, freedom. A life guided by synchronicity instead of struggle. A reality shaped by intention instead of unconscious loops. A destiny lived consciously instead of stumbled into blindly. You are here because you are ready for this shift. You did not find this message by accident. You observed it into your timeline because your readiness called it forth. The universe chose this moment to remind you of your power, to show you that the observer effect is not an abstract concept, but the most intimate truth of your life. You are the observer. You are the creator. You are the one who collapses possibility into reality with every act of attention. And the moment you embody this truth, everything changes. So from this moment forward, carry your observation with reverence. Treat every focus as creation. Trust every delay as timing. Welcome every synchronicity as confirmation. Release every loop that no longer serves you. Live as though the universe is always speaking, because it is. And when you do, you will discover what sages, scientists, and mystics have all pointed to, that you were never a victim of randomness, but always the director of possibilities. The observer effect changes everything. And now that you know it, so will you.